Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to jump into a framework for personal growth that's built on just four simple, but honestly, really profound ideas. Now, this isn't about quick fixes or anything like that. It's about getting to the heart of why we do the things we do and figuring out how we can create some real, lasting change in our lives. So, let's get started. But before we dive in, I want you to just take a second and think about this one question. What truly drives your life? I mean, really, is it your job, your family, the goals you've set for yourself? We're about to unpack the forces that are actually pulling the strings behind the curtain. So here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with the engine that powers every single one of us, our needs. Then we'll talk about this invisible box that kind of shapes our reality. After that, we'll figure out the path to new knowledge. And finally, we'll touch on a kind of truth that you can't really put into words before we pull it all together into a path for your own growth. All right, first up, our first big idea is all about what gets us out of bed in the morning, the engine behind everything we do. It's the universal drive that we all share, our needs. Now, a need isn't just something you want, like a new phone or a vacation. No, it's way deeper than that. It's a fundamental requirement for our well-being. These needs are the deep-down motivations for pretty much everything we do, whether we realize it or not. And what's really interesting is how these needs are sort of layered. We all start with the absolute basics for survival: air, food, water, a roof over our heads. Then on top of that come our social needs, things like connection and love, which are honestly just as important. But then there's this third layer, this really human drive for something more, for growth, for getting better, and maybe even for transcendence. Okay, so let's move on to our second big idea, because this is where it gets really interesting. If our needs are the engine, then our worldview creates these invisible walls on the road we're driving on. We're talking about the box that we all live inside. So what is a worldview? Think of it like a unique pair of glasses that you see everything through. It's shaped by how you grew up, your culture, your personal experiences, and a lot of the time, you don't even know you're wearing them. And these glasses don't just add a bit of color to your world, they actively filter and even change how you see your most basic needs. This quote just nails the problem perfectly. No problem can be solved by the same consciousness that created it. What does that mean? It means if your worldview is what's causing the problem, you can't use the thinking from inside that worldview to solve it. It's a perfect trap. And that is the core idea. Your worldview, this whole set of beliefs and attitudes you've never really questioned, it forms an invisible box around you. It tells you what's possible and what's not, and it dictates how you try to meet your needs. And you want to know the scariest part? Most of us don't even realize we're in one. Here's a classic example of how this box messes with us. Let's say your real, deep-down need is for belonging and acceptance. But maybe the box you live in has taught you that your worth comes from success. So you start to perceive your need as career achievement. You can chase that promotion forever, but you'll never feel truly satisfied because you're not actually feeding the real need. So if we're all in these boxes, how on earth do we get out? Well, that brings us to idea number 3, the path to new knowledge. This is all about finding the key to unlock the door and step outside. But here's the paradox, right? You can't just think your way out. And why is that? It's because the very thoughts you're using to try and escape are a product of the box. The solution has to come from somewhere else, from outside your normal way of thinking. The path out looks something like this. First, you just have to develop the awareness to even recognize that you're in a box. That's a huge first step. Then, you have to actively look for different perspectives. Read different kinds of books, talk to people who aren't like you, explore ideas that feel totally foreign. And finally, and this is the hard part, you have to actually be willing to let that new knowledge in, to let it challenge and maybe even change you. Now, this whole journey of seeking new knowledge, it can lead to something really, really profound. And that brings us to our fourth and final idea. It's about coming face to face with a new reality, with a kind of truth that you can't just explain with words. This kind of truth is interesting. It has two sides. On one hand, it's imminent, which is just a fancy way of saying it's already here, inside you and all around you. You can access it through direct experience, not just thinking about it. But at the same time, it's also transcendent. It exists beyond our normal day-to-day perception, and it's so big that words and concepts just can't do it justice. And this is absolutely crucial. Nobody can give this truth to you. A book can't teach it to you, a teacher can only point you in the right direction. It's a journey you have to take for yourself, an experience you have to have on your own. It is a deeply, deeply personal discovery. And that's really the bottom line. This kind of life-changing truth, it's not a concept. It's not something you learn and memorize. It's something you experience. And that experience, well, it has the power to just completely shatter the box you've been living in. Okay, so let's pull all four of these big ideas together, because this is where we can really see how they create a clear, actionable path for real, genuine human growth. Here it is, all laid out, the whole path. It starts with just being honest with yourself about your true needs. Next, you gotta identify the box, your worldview, that might be twisting those needs into something else. From there, you have to be brave and look for wisdom outside of your comfort zone. And finally, you just stay open to that deeper experiential truth that has the power to change absolutely everything. So this whole framework, all these ideas, they really lead to one final question. And this one's for you. After hearing all this, after understanding these forces that are at play, which box in your own life, which limiting belief are you now ready to step out of?